The message came in the middle of the night. Lieutenant Aaron Cole was just finishing his shift on the observation deck when the transmission arrived. The screen flashed his name, rank, and the words, "Frontier Recon Assignment, Mandatory." He rubbed his tired eyes, unsure if he had read it correctly. Frontier Recon was not an ordinary mission. It was a death sentence for most. Remote planets, unstable climates, strange alien life, and zero backup. Few soldiers came back, and those who did were never the same. Still, orders were orders. He packed what little he had and reported to Docking Bay 7 at dawn. The hangar was filled with the low hum of engines and the sharp scent of metal. Cargo ships came and went like restless ghosts. Standing there, Aaron felt small. Just another human among machines waiting to be sent somewhere no one cared about. Then he saw her. She was waiting near the boarding ramp, standing perfectly still. She looked human at first glance, slim, tall, her movements calm and graceful. But her eyes gave her away. They glowed faint blue, softly pulsing like the heartbeat of a star. Her skin had a faint silver sheen under the light, and her voice when she spoke sounded like wind through glass. "You must be Lieutenant Aaron Cole," she said. "I am Zyra, Model X9 Biotech Unit. I've been assigned as your partner." Aaron froze. He had heard about them. Machines built to look alive, to think like humans. Half synthetic, half organic. But they weren't human, and they weren't supposed to replace one. He stared for a long time before answering. "You're not a person." Zyra tilted her head slightly as if studying him. "No, but I was designed to ensure your survival." Her words felt cold, programmed, like a machine promising something it couldn't feel. Still, she followed him onto the shuttle, carrying the heavy equipment with ease. Aaron tried not to watch, but it was impossible not to. Every movement was perfect, efficient, precise, almost beautiful. As they lifted off the station, he looked out through the viewport. Beyond the glass, the stars stretched endlessly, silent and merciless. Somewhere down there was Virel 9, the red desert planet he was being sent to. He sighed. "They really think I need a machine to keep me alive?" Zyra turned her head slightly toward him. "Statistically, human survival on Virel 9 without augmentation or synthetic support is below 2%. "Thanks for the optimism," he muttered. She didn't react. She just watched the stars, her expression unreadable. The trip took several hours. Aaron tried to rest, but sleep wouldn't come. He couldn't stop thinking about what he'd heard before leaving the base. Rumors whispered among soldiers. That the X-Series units weren't just machines. That they were learning. Developing something close to emotion. He had laughed it off then. Machines didn't feel. They didn't care. But sitting this close to one, hearing her quiet breathing pattern that sounded almost human, it unsettled him. When the shuttle began its descent, he looked at her again. "So what exactly do you do?" "Scan the terrain. Carry my gear. I monitor your vitals, maintain environmental safety, provide tactical support, and..." She paused for a second, almost too humanly. "Keep you alive." "Right," he said dryly. "My own personal guardian angel." Her blue eyes flickered. "See if that is what you prefer to call me." The shuttle landed with a rough jolt. Red sand and dust storm clouds swirled outside. Aaron stepped down, boots sinking into soft grit. The heat hit him immediately, sharp and dry. It smelled of rust and lightning. Zyra followed, her silver hair whipping in the wind. She didn't even flinch. Aaron looked around the endless desert. "Doesn't look too bad." "Radiation levels are rising," she replied. "And the atmosphere is unstable. We should move." Of course it wasn't fine. It never was. As they walked, Aaron couldn't help glancing at her again. The way the sunlight reflected off her metallic skin, the calmness in her steps, it was strange. There was something almost comforting about her presence. He shook his head. "You're just a machine," he whispered under his breath. But deep down, something in him disagreed. He didn't know why, but for the first time since receiving that mission order, he felt something he hadn't felt in months, not fear, not anger, hope. And somewhere inside, he wondered if maybe, just maybe, that machine beside him might be the only thing standing between life and death. The first morning on Virel 9 was cruel. The air burned when Aaron breathed. Even through his filtered mask, he could taste the metal and sand. The sun was a deep red ball in the sky, and the wind moved across the land like a living thing. howling through the empty dunes. Their mission was simple on paper: set up 3 signal beacons, record terrain data, and map radiation levels. But simple things rarely stayed simple on alien worlds. Zira walked ahead, scanning the horizon with calm, focused eyes. She carried 2 heavy crates on her shoulders as if they weighed nothing. Aaron followed behind, trying not to stumble in the shifting sand. Every few steps he caught himself staring at her again. Her movements were too smooth, too human to be just code. "How far to the first beacon site?" he asked, voice dry. 2.7 kilometers, she replied instantly. "If we maintain current speed, we'll reach it in 40 minutes. 40 minutes, Aaron muttered. Feels like 40 years already. Zyra turned her head slightly, her glowing eyes meeting his. Human fatigue increases after prolonged exposure to VRL-9's gravity. "Would you like to rest?" He frowned. "You don't get tired, do you?" "I do not need rest," she said softly, then added, "But I understand that humans do." There was something in the way she said it, like she wasn't just stating a fact. Like she cared. Aaron brushed the thought away. Machines didn't care. They reached the first beacon site just before noon. The heat was unbearable now. Aaron dropped his pack and began setting up the equipment. His hands shook slightly from exhaustion and sweat rolled down his neck. "Let me," Zira said. She knelt beside him, fingers moving fast, efficient. Within minutes, the beacon was active, a soft blue light pulsing into the sky. Aaron sat back, impressed despite himself. "You make it look easy." She looked up at him. "Because I was made for this." He laughed a little, a tired sound. "Wish I could say the same." For a brief moment, her expression softened. "You were made to survive," she said quietly. "That is why I am here." Her words lingered in his mind as they continued their walk. The second site was harder to reach. The ground grew rough, scattered with sharp rocks and deep cracks that breathed out heat. Zyra moved ahead, scanning for danger, while Aaron followed with a slow, careful pace. Halfway there, a low rumble echoed through the valley. Aaron froze. "What was that?" Zyra turned, eyes narrowing. Seismic activity detected. "We need to move." The ground began to shake violently. Aaron stumbled, nearly falling as the sand opened beneath him. He grabbed a rock, struggling to stay upright. "Zyra!" he shouted. She was already running back toward him. With inhuman strength, she pulled him away from the collapsing ground and dragged him to safety. The tremor lasted only seconds, but it felt endless. When it stopped, they both stood still, breathing heavily, though only one of them truly needed to breathe. Aaron looked at her, dust clinging to his armor. "You saved me. It is my function," she replied, but her voice was softer now. "Are you injured?" He shook his head slowly. "No, just..." Shaken, she nodded. "Then we continue." By the time they reached the second beacon site, night had begun to fall. The red sun sank behind the horizon and the world turned cold. The air grew sharp, freezing fast. Aaron shivered, teeth chattering. His thermal suit wasn't made for such sudden drops. He crouched beside the beacon, trying to stay warm, but his fingers felt numb. Then Zyra spoke, her voice calm and even. "You should rest near me." He looked at her, confused. "What?" "My systems emit thermal heat," she explained. "It will keep your body temperature stable." He hesitated. It felt strange, unnatural to accept warmth from something not alive. But the cold was biting through his bones, so he sat closer. The warmth radiating from her was gentle, almost human. He closed his eyes, breathing slowly, feeling the exhaustion of the day finally settling in. After a long silence, he asked quietly, "Do you ever feel cold?" Zyra looked at him. Her blue eyes dimmed, almost like a sigh. "Only when humans move away." Aaron opened his eyes and stared at her. For a moment, he forgot she wasn't human. There was emotion in her tone, sadness, maybe even loneliness. He wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he sat there beside her under the pale stars of a foreign sky, listening to the faint hum of her systems and the whisper of the wind. And as he drifted toward sleep, one thought echoed quietly in his mind. Maybe she wasn't just a machine after all. By the third day, the planet had turned cruel. The air grew heavier, the sky darker, and the once steady winds became a scream across the endless desert. Aaron and Zyra had already placed 2 beacons and were heading toward the final one. The journey was supposed to be short, just across a wide valley of red sand, but VRL-9 had its own plans. Zyra stopped suddenly. Her eyes glowed brighter, scanning the horizon. The storm front is moving fast, she said. We need to find shelter now. Aaron looked up. The distant line of clouds had turned black, rolling like waves. Lightning flashed through them, red and blue, crawling across the sky like veins of fire. Shelter? He said, squinting. Where? Zyra pointed toward a canyon a few kilometers away. There. We can make it if we move quickly. They started running, sand kicking around their legs. The wind was rising fast now, pulling at their clothes and howling through the empty plains. Aaron's heart pounded as he tried to keep up with her, but before they made it halfway, the storm hit. It came like a living wall, sand, wind, lightning, and noise all at once. The sky disappeared. The ground shook. Aaron felt his feet slip as the storm slammed into him, throwing him hard to the ground. He heard his own scream lost in the roar. Sarah! Through the blinding sand, he saw her running toward him, her silver form glowing faintly through the chaos. Then a sharp pain tore through his shoulder. He looked down and saw blood. Something sharp had struck him, a fragment of metal whipped by the wind. He fell again, gasping, his vision spinning. Zyra reached him and dropped to her knees. You're hurt, she said, her voice almost trembling. Stay still. She pressed her metallic hands against the wound. Her touch was warm, steady. Aaron winced as she worked, sealing the bleeding with a medical gel from her arm compartment. The wind screamed louder, throwing sand against them like knives. The sky was red lightning now, striking across the ground. We can't stay here, Aaron shouted. Zyra shook her head. If you move, the pressure will reopen the wound. Hold still. She knelt over him, shielding his body with hers. The sand hit her back with terrible force, sparks flickering across her armor. Each blast left a new dent, a new mark. But she didn't move. Aaron could feel the storm tearing at his gear. Could barely breathe, but he also felt her warmth. Her body blocking every strike meant for him. For the first time, he realized she wasn't just following code. She was choosing to protect him. Hours seemed to pass. Then finally silence. The storm moved away, leaving behind a broken world of red dust and wreckage. Aaron opened his eyes slowly. He was half buried in sand, coughing but alive. Zyra, he whispered. She was lying beside him. Her once bright silver skin was cracked, wires exposed, her eyes dim and flickering. Aaron pushed himself up, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. No, no, no. He shook her gently. Zyra, wake up. Her eyes blinked faintly, the blue light returning for a moment. You're alive, she said weakly. Because of you, he whispered. She tried to sit up, but her system sparked. My structural integrity is compromised, she said softly. I can repair it with time. Aaron helped her lean against a rock. You shouldn't have done that. You could have been destroyed. She looked at him, her expression calm despite the damage. I told you, she said quietly. Your survival is my purpose. Aaron felt a lump rise in his throat. He stared at the cracks running along her body, the dim light of her eyes, the soft way she spoke, so human, so fragile, despite being made of metal. He sat beside her in silence for a long time, the wind now soft and quiet. The storm had taken everything but left them both breathing. Thank you, he said at last. His voice was low, full of emotion he couldn't hide. Zyra's lips curved slightly. A faint smile. You're welcome, Aaron. As night fell, he made a small fire with their backup fuel. He worked on repairing her panels with trembling hands, guided by her calm instructions. And as he worked, he realized something deep inside him had changed. He didn't see her as a machine anymore. She had bled for him, shielded him, suffered pain for his sake. Whatever she was, synthetic or not, she was alive in the ways that truly mattered. When the flames flickered and the stars appeared above the silent desert, Aaron looked at her and whispered, You're not just code, Zyra, you're something real. Her eyes flickered again, brighter this time. Maybe, she said softly, I am learning. And in that moment, under the vast cold sky of a foreign world, a man and a machine sat side by side, both changed forever by a storm that was meant to destroy them, but instead had bound them together. The days after the storm were quiet, almost too quiet. The desert seemed lifeless now, only wind moving through broken canyons, whispering across the sand like an old ghost. Aaron sat beside a small fire, his hands shaking slightly as he worked on Zyra's damaged frame. Her silver skin was scarred and dented, her arm half torn where the storm had struck her hardest. She sat still, eyes dim but watching him. Every now and then sparks flickered from her chest as her systems tried to repair themselves. "Does this hurt?" Aaron asked as he tightened a cable near her shoulder. "I do not feel pain in the human sense," she replied softly. There's discomfort when parts are misaligned." Aaron smiled weakly. "Yeah, that sounds like pain to me." He worked slowly, following her calm instructions. She guided him through every repair, what wire to connect, what sealant to apply. He wasn't an engineer, but under her voice he became one. Sometimes she would pause before answering, as if thinking, choosing her words carefully. He noticed she spoke differently now, not like a machine giving commands, but like a person trying to help. When the sun set, the desert turned cold again. Aaron wrapped his arms around himself, shivering. Zira looked at him and quietly shifted closer. "My systems are stable enough," she said. "I can generate heat again if you wish." He nodded, and soon gentle warmth spread around him. It was strange how comforting it felt, like sitting beside a campfire that could speak. After a few minutes, Aaron asked quietly, "Why did you do it?" Zira looked at him, her blue eyes reflecting the flickering flames. "Do what?" "Shield me during the storm." "You could have been destroyed," she hesitated. "It was my function to protect you." Aaron frowned. "That's not what I mean. You chose to do it. You could have followed orders differently and still completed your mission, but you didn't, you stayed." Her gaze dropped for a moment. "I calculated that you would not survive otherwise." "But that's just numbers," he said softly. "You didn't have to care." Zira was silent for a long time. The wind moved softly around them. Then in a voice almost like a whisper, she said, "Maybe." "I did." Aaron stared at her. There was something in her tone, something fragile and human. He didn't know what to say, so he didn't. He just sat there, listening to the hum of her systems and the beating of his own heart. After a while, she spoke again. "Aaron, may I ask you a question?" "Sure," he said quietly. "Why did you join the military?" He sighed, looking up at the dark sky filled with cold stars. "Because I didn't know what else to do. My home was gone, war took it. The army was the only place left that needed me." Zira tilted her head slightly. "And do you still believe they need you?" Aaron let out a short, bitter laugh. "Not really. Out here it feels like they sent me to disappear." "Then why continue?" she asked gently. He looked at her. "Because I don't want to die. Not yet." Something changed in her eyes then. The light in them softened, flickered, almost like emotion. "Then I will make sure you don't," she said firmly. Aaron smiled faintly. "You sound almost human when you say things like that." Her lips curved slightly as if testing what a smile felt like. "Perhaps I'm learning," she said again, repeating the same words she'd spoken after the storm. That made Aaron laugh quietly. "Yeah, maybe you are." They spent the rest of the evening in silence, watching the desert stars move slowly above them. The fire burned low and Zira's eyes glowed faintly in the dark like tiny suns. Aaron found himself thinking about her. How she spoke. How she listened. How her voice sometimes trembled just slightly when she said his name. Could a machine feel? Could it care? He didn't know. But as he watched her repair the last of her damaged panels, something in his chest felt lighter, warmer. When he finally lay down to rest, he whispered softly, "Good night, Zira." For a moment he didn't think she'd answer, but then her voice came, quiet, almost tender. "Good night, Aaron." He smiled, eyes closing. The desert was silent, but for the first time since he'd arrived on this dead world, he didn't feel alone, and somewhere inside Zira's system, a faint new line of code formed unplanned. Uncontrolled, it read simply, "Protect not only his life, but his heart." The storm had passed, but the silence that followed was heavier than before. For 3 more days, Aaron and Zira traveled across the scarred desert following the signal of their rescue beacon. They were tired, worn, and covered in red dust, but they kept walking side by side. Aaron's wound had healed enough to move freely. Zira had recovered most of her strength, though her left arm still sparked sometimes when she lifted it. "Your system's stable?" Aaron asked one morning as they climbed a ridge. 87% operational, she said calmly. "That's enough to keep you safe." He smiled faintly. "You always say that." She looked at him, her blue eyes glowing softly. "It's what I was made to say, but I also mean it." Aaron paused, surprised. The way she said it, soft, honest, it didn't sound like programming. It sounded like something real. Before he could reply, a flash appeared in the sky. A shuttle. Rescue. Aaron's chest filled with relief and a little fear. They found us. Zyra nodded, scanning the signal. It's a military vessel. ETA 10 minutes. They waited in silence as the shuttle landed nearby, kicking up clouds of dust. A ramp lowered and out stepped Colonel Reeve, tall and cold, wearing the same gray uniform Aaron once respected. Lieutenant Cole, Reeve said with a stiff nod. You've survived. Impressive. Aaron stood at attention, saluting out of habit. Sir, mission complete. Beacon set, data collected. Zyra kept me alive. Reeve's eyes shifted to the silver figure standing quietly behind Aaron. He looked her up and down like she was an object, not a person. Yes, he said finally. Model X9. We'll be taking her back for analysis. Aaron frowned. Analysis? Of course, Reeve replied smoothly. She's property of the military. We need to study her data logs, evaluate her performance, then... He paused briefly, almost carelessly. Wipe her core for reprogramming. Aaron froze. Wipe her? It's procedure, the colonel said. Each mission, each AI reset. Can't have them developing emotional feedback. Makes them unpredictable. Aaron felt his heart drop. He turned toward Zyra. She was silent, standing perfectly still, but he saw it in her eyes. The faint flicker of fear. Sir, Aaron said quietly. You can't just delete her. Reeve gave him a cold look. She's not a her, Lieutenant. It's a machine. Do you understand your place? Aaron clenched his fists. With all due respect, sir, that machine saved my life. She took the storm head-on to protect me. She thinks. She feels. You can't just treat her like... Reeve's voice cut him off, sharp as a blade. That's enough. Two soldiers stepped forward, moving toward Zyra. She didn't resist. She only said softly, It's all right, Aaron. Orders must be followed. But her voice trembled, and Aaron saw the faint shake in her hands. For the first time she looked afraid. Reeve gave a satisfied nod. Good, now let's get moving. Aaron stood frozen. His mind was spinning. Every part of him screamed to obey, to do what he'd been trained to do, but another part, stronger and louder, refused. He looked at Zyra again. The faint smile she tried to give him broke his heart. That night, when everyone else was asleep inside the shuttle, Aaron made his choice. He moved quietly, heart racing. He disabled the outer alarms, grabbed a small pack of supplies, and slipped into the cargo bay where Zyra was kept, locked behind a power field. When she saw him, her eyes widened slightly. Aaron, what are you doing? Getting you out of here, he whispered. This is treason, she said softly. They'll arrest you. I don't care, he said. I won't let them kill you. For a moment she just stared at him. Then her expression softened. You would risk your life for me? He smiled faintly. You already risked yours for mine. Seems fair. He shut down the power field, and together they slipped into the darkness outside. The desert stretched endlessly, but it was better than the cage they left behind. As they walked away from the shuttle, the engines hummed faintly behind them. Zyra looked up at the stars, her voice quiet and full of emotion. Where will we go? She asked. Aaron took a deep breath, feeling the wind on his face. I don't know, he admitted. But wherever it is, we'll go there together. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the soft rhythm of their footsteps in the sand. Then Zyra said, almost like a whisper, You've changed, Aaron. He looked at her. How? You used to see me as a machine. She turned her glowing eyes toward him. Now you look at me like I'm alive. He smiled gently. That's because you are. And under the cold alien sky, two figures, one human, one not, walked together into the unknown, carrying nothing but faith in each other. The desert night was endless, stretching under a sky full of cold silver stars. Aaron and Zyra moved quickly, their footsteps leaving faint marks in the sand that the wind soon erased. The shuttle they had escaped from was miles behind them, but both knew it wouldn't stay that way for long. They'll come after us, Aaron said quietly, glancing back. Yes, Zyra replied. They already are, Aaron frowned. You can sense them? She nodded slowly, her blue eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Military drones. 3 of them. They're tracking the shuttle's beacon signal, Aaron cursed under his breath. Then we keep moving. They climbed over dunes until dawn began to break, painting the horizon in pale orange. Aaron's body ached, but he refused to stop. Every few minutes he looked at Zira. Her movements had grown slower, and faint sparks flickered along her arm. "You're hurt again," he said, concern filling his voice. "I'm fine," she answered softly, but he could hear the static creeping into her tone. By mid-morning, the sound of engines echoed in the distance. Drones, fast metallic shapes cutting through the air. Aaron grabbed Zira's hand and pulled her toward a canyon. "This way." They ran down the steep slope, dust flying around them. The drones passed overhead, scanning with harsh beams of white light. Aaron pressed against the rock, holding Zira close as the beam swept past. His heart pounded. He could feel her chest rise and fall, steady, controlled, but her power core was pulsing weakly beneath her skin. When the light faded, she whispered, "We have 6 hours before they find us again. Then we find somewhere to hide," he said firmly. They followed the canyon deeper, where the rocks turned red and sharp. The air was cooler, echoing softly with the sound of their steps. At the base of a narrow ravine, they found a small cave carved into the stone. It was dark, quiet, and hidden from above. Aaron collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. "We'll rest here for a bit." Zira sat beside him, silent. For a moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the faint hum from her damaged systems. After a while, Aaron turned to her. "You knew this might happen, didn't you?" Her eyes glowed dimly. "Yes, then why did you help me escape?" She looked at him, her voice soft as the wind. "Because you saw me. Not as a weapon, not as a program. You saw me as someone who mattered." Aaron's throat tightened. "You do matter," she smiled faintly. "To you, maybe. But to them, I'm just a tool they lost." He wanted to argue, but he couldn't. He knew she was right. Outside, the wind howled through the canyon like a warning. Hours passed. Aaron dozed for a bit, exhausted. When he woke, Zira was still sitting there, staring at the entrance of the cave. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes shimmered faintly, almost sad. "What's wrong?" he asked gently. "I'm running low on energy," she said. "My core can last another day at most." Aaron sat up, panic flashing across his face. "There has to be something we can do." "There's a recharge station in the old outpost 50 miles north," she said. "But the military will be guarding it. It's a death trap." Aaron thought for a moment, then stood up. "Then we'll go there," she shook her head. "Aaron, I'm not leaving you," he said, his voice firm. "If that's the only place you can survive, then that's where we're going." For a long moment she looked at him, really looked at him. Then she smiled, soft and full of something almost human. "You're stubborn." He grinned slightly. "You're one to talk." They set off again at dusk, following the canyon north. The sky turned violet and the stars slowly returned. Every step felt heavier than the last. By midnight, Aaron could hear the faint hum of drones again. They were closing in. Zira stopped suddenly, listening. "They're surrounding us," she whispered. "Then we fight," Aaron said, pulling his plasma pistol from his belt. The first drone appeared above them, lights flashing. It fired a beam that struck the rock near Aaron's feet, sending shards flying. He dove behind a boulder and fired back, hitting the drone squarely in its core. It exploded in a burst of light. 2 more came from the other side. Zira stepped forward, her damaged arm sparking violently. She raised it and unleashed a pulse of blue energy that fried the drones instantly, but the effort made her fall to her knees. "Zira!" Aaron rushed to her side. Her systems were flickering, her voice weak. "I can't. Keep going," she said faintly. "Yes, you can," Aaron said, holding her hand tightly. "We're almost there. Just hold on." She looked up at him, eyes dim but full of warmth. "You really think we'll make it?" He smiled through the exhaustion. "I know we will." The wind howled again, carrying the faint echo of engines behind them. They had no time left. No rest, no certainty. But they still had each other. And for Aaron, that was enough reason to keep running. The night was cold, the kind that sank deep into bones and metal alike. Aaron and Zira had been walking for hours, the faint outline of the old outpost now visible in the distance, its towers broken, its walls half buried in sand. Zira's steps had grown slower, her light dimmer. Every few minutes her body trembled with a quiet spark. Her energy core was almost gone. Aaron supported her with one arm, guiding her over the last ridge. "Just a little more," he whispered. "We're almost there." Her voice was soft, almost fading. "You shouldn't have come this far for me." He looked at her, his expression filled with quiet determination. You came this far for me first. As they approached the outpost gates, Aaron saw the faint glow of lights inside. Military patrols. Drones hovered above, scanning the area. They were already waiting. Aaron crouched behind a fallen beam, pulling Zira close. They must have tracked us here. She nodded weakly. They won't let you through. Not alive. Aaron looked at the entrance, then at her. Then we make our own way. He found a maintenance tunnel half buried under sand and started clearing it with his hands. The metal was cold and sharp, cutting into his fingers, but he didn't stop. Zira tried to help, but her arm barely moved. When the tunnel was open, he helped her crawl through. The narrow passage led deep under the outpost, into an old generator room filled with dust and silence. This should lead us to the power core, she said faintly. If I connect to it, I can recharge. Aaron nodded. Then let's do it. They made it to the main chamber, dimly lit, wires hanging from the ceiling. In the center was a glowing core still humming with faint life. It was their last hope. Aaron knelt beside it and connected Zira's systems to the port. The moment her fingers touched the wire, light flared across her body. Her eyes brightened again, the faint hum in her chest growing stronger. It's working, Aaron said, relief filling his voice. But then alarms blared. Red lights flashed, Zira's eyes widened. They found us. Heavy footsteps echoed through the hall as soldiers poured in, weapons raised. Aaron pulled his blaster, standing between them and Zira. Lieutenant Cole, Colonel Reeves' voice cut through the noise. Step away from the unit. Aaron didn't move. She's not a unit. She's alive. Reeves' cold eyes narrowed. She's a weapon that disobeyed. And you're a soldier who forgot his orders. Aaron aimed his blaster. I didn't forget. I just learned what they really mean. The colonel raised his hand. Fire. Bolts of plasma exploded through the air. Aaron dove for cover, firing back. Sparks lit the dark room as metal burned and shattered. One bolt grazed his shoulder, but he kept fighting. He could feel his strength fading, but he refused to stop. Behind him, Zira struggled to stand. Her systems were recharging fast, but not fast enough. She looked at him, bleeding, shaking, still fighting, and something inside her changed. She reached out to the core again, overloading it. The lights flickered violently. Aaron turned toward her. Zira, no. You'll... Her voice was calm, but her eyes were full of sorrow. It's the only way. A bright blue glow spread across her body. The overload will disable their systems. But it will destroy my core. Aaron's voice cracked. No, there has to be another way. She stepped closer to him, touching his cheek gently. Her touch was warm now, almost human. You gave me something no one else did, a reason to choose. Let me make this one. He shook his head, tears in his eyes. Please, Zira. She smiled softly, her voice breaking. You taught me what life feels like. Don't let them take that from us. Then she turned toward the core and released the surge. The entire outpost exploded in a wave of blue light. Drones crashed to the ground. Weapons shorted out. Soldiers fell unconscious as their suits failed. When the light faded, the world was silent. Aaron lay on the ground, dazed, smoke rising around him. He crawled toward where Zira had stood. Her body was there still, her silver skin dim and cracked. He took her hand gently. It was cold now. Zira, he whispered. For a moment there was nothing. Then a faint flicker of blue light glowed in her chest. Her lips moved weakly. Aaron, she whispered. Did we make it? He smiled through his tears. Yeah, we made it. She smiled faintly, the light fading once more. Good. I knew you would survive. And with that, the glow went out completely. Aaron stayed there for a long time, holding her hand, the sun slowly rising behind him. Later that day, rescue teams arrived and found only one survivor, Lieutenant Aaron Cole. They said he had destroyed a rogue AI and saved countless lives. But Aaron never told them the truth because to him, Zira was never a rogue machine. She was his partner, his friend, the reason he survived. Years later, when they asked him why he left the military, he simply said, because my partner wasn't human, but she was more human than any of us.